Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
We're continuing our retro movie reviews for the good old Halloween times with some, a little bit different, I guess you would say, horror movies and so on like that. And Ryan picked this one, Fright Night. And, I thought about it. It's like, this is a movie I've known about. Like, I could picture the cover really easily, but I don't think I ever watched it till right now.
Really? I assume this is a movie you saw a long time ago.
That's what I assumed, too. And then I was watching it. I'm like, I do not think I've seen this one. Like, I don't know. Maybe because I think I get it. It sounds weird, but like in my mind, I get it confused with the Frighteners. They got fright in the title.
Well, I think this is also one of those movies because it is considered to be a classic, and people really do like this one a lot. But at the same time, it doesn't have that same legacy as, say, like Lost Boys, So I think that when people think of your 80s vampire movie, they immediately go to like Lost Boys. But this one still does have like, there's actually a sequel. And I think it was one of those sequels that was like, at the time, it was dismissed. But in retrospect, people have said, actually, it's not that bad. Just give it a shot. So maybe down the line, maybe we can do that one. But anyway, this is one of those movies that liked and well respected, but it just it's not one of the first things you think of right off the bat.
You know what? Because I think it fits into like that category of sort of movies that are I was drawing back on, but like sort of like The Howling and things like that, where they get kind of like lost to like the big ones, like A Werewolf in London. I think that's sort of the same way Fright Night sort of does. It gets lost behind Lost Boys. Probably because, in Lost Boys, you got the dude playing the saxophone and the weirdest looking grunge rock. Like that right there is like, that's the part always stays in my mind. When you see that guy, you're like, wow, he's really going all out. He's like proto 90s. Like, he doesn't know it yet, but he's like literally creating the 90s with just like, let's just throw it all together in an Attitude Era feud world.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I remember seeing Lost Boys. I own Lost Boys. I like Lost Boys. But I don't watch it as much as Fright Night, which is one of those things where I was like thinking back on this and I was like, wow, Lost Boys is a classic and I like it, but I probably can't like name off like lines or like beat for beat or moments from the movie like I can't like I can like Fright Night. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those movies like, oh right, the maggots or the word the rice is maggots, whatever, like that kind of thing, or the creased up dude with the saxophone, So there's like things like that, but it took place in Santa Cruz or like a version of Santa Cruz, but that not like this movie. And I think the simplicity of this movie almost fixes it, because I didn't realize it till watching it this time, but this is basically, I mean, they go more places in the house, but it's basically Rear View Window but with a vampire.
Yeah, no, it's totally, that was the first thing I was like, oh, it's totally Rear Window but with a vampire coming in there. And and I think that's just kind of the cool thing. And I'll say this, I think Fright Night actually is better than the Lost Boys. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Lost Boys, and I watched it not that long ago because I think I wanted to get that Santa Cruz feel when I was putting together all the Pizza Boys, Santa Cruz, Ninjutsu Sunrise ones. I'm like, well, let's watch one of the few Santa Cruz movies, Apparently, fun trivia fact I remember I learned from that was that the reason why they didn't call it Santa Cruz in Lost Boys is because Santa Cruz was known as the murder capital of the U.S. for a moment, and they did not want to be associated with vampires too, which is so weird. I'm like, really? I'm like, the whole time growing up, I never remember hearing that part. I thought Stockton always outweighed that place.
I think it was like some weird like technicality it got that, but not what you'd think of. Not Santa Cruz. I just think of, I just remember like the this is a very local reference, but like for people who lived in California, and I at the time I lived in San Jose, so I just remember hearing like boardwalk, like those ads,
Yeah.
or it's Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, and then like Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in Santa Cruz, murder capital of California. Like I don't remember that in the ad. So it's
with the fake Ramones band playing at the same time too. Yeah, I don't remember any of that happening there, but maybe that apparently was what it was, and that's why Santa Cruz is like, no, you're not calling your vampire world Santa Cruz. I mean, yeah, everybody knows it's in Santa Cruz. Dirty Harry was just here like a week ago, so come on, but.
I like every like big movie that takes place in Santa Cruz is either like, okay, Us with Jordan Peele, so child abduction, creepy people living underneath in the basement.
Black people are never going to visit Santa Cruz after that movie. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, well, there goes all the tourists for there. I mean, they'd be like, yeah, right. I'm not going there. They take people on the boardwalk.
Like you get Dirty Harry 4, like, okay, a rape happened here. That's fucking awesome, and then you have like Lost Boys, and vampires.
Yeah, like
so
there's
like,
never a good
nothing
Santa
good
Cruz
happens
story.
in Santa Cruz on screen.
It's so weird because that everybody from like outside the state that has no idea what Santa Cruz is, they're like, that must be a horrible place.
And if you're waiting in line in one of like some of the rides there, they'll have posters for whatever, like for movies that have been filmed there, and it's always like, oh, murder, rape, murder, rape. You look at all the movies they have on the posters.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like I didn't put that all together till now. I just think about, my God, Santa Cruz has like terrible publicity. There's never like a good movie where like, let's just have fun at Santa Cruz or whatnot like that. I wonder if any of those, when they were doing the beach party movie craze in like the 50s and early 60s, if they had any Santa Cruz ones there, because that seems like that would be the ideal spot. I mean, they probably were too lazy. They probably like, you know what, that's a drive. We can just go to Santa Monica and do the same thing. Let's be honest.
Probably the case, yeah. But at the same time, go ahead, yeah.
But I do kind of wonder, because now I'm like, Jesus, I guess I'm the person putting the best spotlight on. Well, no, I got gangs showing up in there, and it's kung fu, and it's all beat 'em up like Streets of Rage. So I guess I'm not helping the cause either.
Yeah, well, at least hasn't been as bad as like that scene from like Dirty Harry, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Dirty Harry 4 or whatever. So, but like, yeah, so. Yeah, Lost Boys is a classic, but I like Fright Night more. Maybe because I saw Fright Night first, and it's also just one of those like Halloween go-tos for me. And it's also one of those cases where I think that it is kind of like, I'm not going to lie. Watching it again, I kind of forget how quickly the kid Charlie just dives in. There's no lead up. Like, okay, man, things are a little crazy. I want to give you a heads up. He just jumps in. Like, okay, so what is this guy? He's a vampire. Like, ease people into that. Now, despite that, I still go along with the ride because, ironically enough, Charlie is right. But I don't blame anybody for being like, Charlie, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I know he's really into saying that it's a vampire. Like, it's like when they brings that detective over, and he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, this guy's a vampire. I fucking hate my neighbor. Do something. What are you gonna do? Arrest him. Can't you see? Whoa, you're not doing it. And the guy's like, okay, kid, pump the brakes. This is the problem. These 80s kids eat a lot of candy. They watch a lot of late night TV. They start blaming their neighbors, He sees Rear Window. He's got weird dreams. Next thing you know, vampires are appearing. Take care, sir.
Yeah, well, it's even like, because the part is just like, he couldn't just say like, he's downstairs. There's a coffin downstairs. Downstairs. Why? Because he's sleeping the eternal sleep of the damned. Like, God damn, did you really think that was going to work, kid? Did you really think that was like, okay, I got this one loaded up in the chamber. If everything else, this delivery is going to get the point.
Well, it's funny because sometimes the way he talks almost more sounds like the character reversal should be like, there's like the, whoa, I'm the nerdy cool kid at school with the spiked hair and everything like that. That feels more like how that guy would talk if he was the main character, but it's the 80s, so that guy would never be the main character.
I have not seen the remake. I wouldn't mind watching it at some point because people say the remake's unnecessary, but it's decent.
That's Colin Farrell in it.
Say. Yeah, Colin Farrell's in it, and that's what has me kind of curious. But I have not seen it. But do you know who plays Evil Ed in the remake?
No, I don't. I've never seen the remake. I just really.
Oh, Mick Lovin plays Evil Ed, so now I kind of want to see it. I'm
actually more sold on that, like that, and like Colin. Even though for some reason I picture Colin Farrell being the guy looking Rear Window, like there's fucking vampires across the way. There's vampires over there.
He's just playing his character from In Bruges. I'll kill the fucking vampire. Dude, you should be proud. That's awesome. It was a boy vampire. Well, he was like 400 years old, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, he lived a better life than pretty much everybody else. So I don't know. Yeah. He literally has no regrets.
No, so like, but no, like, I thought the guy in this movie, the whole cast thought did good. I mean, it's kind of between Charlie, he's kind of hamming it up, and the girlfriend is a little kind of like 80s girlfriend in the way, like, what are you talking about? Like, she has a little bit of like, don't get me wrong, she's pretty, but she has a little bit of that like instant aunt energy. You know what I mean? Kind of just the way how I think they're doing that just to kind of hold back, because she seems kind of mousy and kind of like bookish. But then they suddenly, when all the vampire shit goes down near the end, then she's like, oh, they're trying to make, like, oh, she was like this the whole time or whatever,
Yeah, they're giving that. Well, I think it's that thing is, it's like the Molly Ringwald era and everything like that. So that kind of that haircut of like, the short kind of, bouncy looking like puffball kind of look to it, where like looks like you just wake up out of bed, keep it short so you don't have to do any effort into it. And it does have that kind of feel. And she does. She's got like, she's one of those ones like, she's literally in like her own world. It's like that part where they're like in like the at the cafeteria at school, and she's just like not paying attention to like what this like, dude, this guy's like looking at a murder, and she's like, you're not paying attention to me, here, take this burger from this guy and I'll just slap it in your face. He's like, yo, dude, like I think he even says like, he's like, yo, this I think happened yesterday at my house, like, or like next door to my house, nobody seems to care.
Well, anytime, like, because at the beginning, I mean, it is a little bit of a rough opening for him, just because like they're watching like the Vincent, the Peter Vincent program, and he's like, Peter Vincent's on, like, I don't give a shit, let's fuck. And then all of a sudden, like, just something happens outside. He's like, we're finally gonna do it? Like, yeah, we're gonna finally do it. Like, then they're about to do it, and then like, no, first he's like pushing too much. He says, God damn it, it's been a year, what am I gonna fuck? Like, just a super like aggro moment. Like, that's like first way to introduce the main character. But then he's just like, I'm sorry, that came off a little harsh. And like, okay, we're gonna do it, we're finally gonna do it. And then he's just like looking up the window like, dude, some fucking shit's going on outside. All right, dude, that's great. Do you want to make this happen or not? And he just keeps on staring outside. So he almost comes across as like someone with ADHD. Granted, it's like a vampire at the end of the day, so he has a reason. But at first glance, it's like, dude, he pays attention, because as she's leaving, the mom's trying to talk to him. He's like, yeah. See you at school tomorrow. Whatever. You guys just broke up technically. You're like, all right, fuck off. They're carrying a casket.
Yeah, fucking weird shit going on the TV outside. Yeah, he's like one of those ones, like he's watching like he's like, fucking next door neighbor just get an NES. Is that what he's bringing in there? Like, shit. We're gonna start hanging out with that guy.
Shit, yeah.
That guy walking in there looks like a sexy Jerry Seinfeld.
That's a perfect way to describe me. He's a very sexy Jerry Seinfeld.
I was looking at this villain. I'm like, that's what it is. It's kind of a funny one, but it's like, oh yeah, it's like, yeah, there we go. Sexy Jerry Seinfeld is your vampire.
The guy who almost kind of like came across more creepy to me than Jerry's, well, actually his name was Jerry, I think. Jerry something.
Oh, so, yeah, I think you're right.
Rather than Jerry the Vampire, which really makes the movie sound less scary, Jerry the Vampire. But other than him, the person that was also probably like second most creepiest person in the movie, not far behind Jerry, was actually like his buddy, I think Billy or whatever, his like assistant.
Yeah, the Renfield for like the Dracula in a sense in this story.
Yeah, because he was just kind of like, there was something very off-putting about him, because he was a very tall guy, but he almost kind of had like this substitute teacher energy, like that he was about to like fuck you up any minute though. You know what I mean? Like, hey buddy, like he kind of had that, hey buddy, why don't you take a seat? Like, no, I don't want to take a seat. Like, kind of like that kind of thing. Like, you can't explain exactly how or why, but he has like this kind of grin that makes it like off-putting about him. And like, I mean, by the end, he's more than, I just assumed he was a familiar when I first saw this movie. By the end, like, oh, he's more than that. But yeah.
Yeah, well, because this story, like the kind of cool thing about it is it does have that thing where it's like, hey, I'm going to jam like 5 things from different movies that I really like all into sort of one, and give it like classic, Dracula kind of vampire movies. Nosferatu, it's got all that kind of in there. I'm going to mix in Rear Window, give it sort of like the Alfred Hitchcock kind of feel. And then I want to give it the, the Vincent Price Presents / Elvira, and then, Vampira and all the other kind of like, horror movie hosts and hostesses. I want to give it that sort of all feel, bam, jammed in there. And that was what I thought. I was like, that guy's kind of like, he's like the Renfield, because he's the guy who could do all the tasks for Jerry, literally, when he can't go outside, in the daytime and everything like that. And, he keeps up on that. Though, technically, it turns out he's actually a monster himself, too.
Yeah, which I wasn't entirely sure what he's supposed to be, if he was like, because he was definitely, I just assumed, okay, he's like Renfield. He's the familiar or whatever,
Yeah, he's the slave.
But then I was like, oh, but they actually have like a relationship. Like, I wasn't surprised that they fucked at some point. He's lived a long time, but
yeah.
I mean, they have like a relationship, just the way they kind of hang off each other and how they're just kind of so like it's not like this like my master. It's not that shit. He's very much kind of like they're bros, and like he kind of like they laugh at each other's jokes. Like, do you see that fucking kid, that fucking dipshit, trying to call the cops in on me? So.
Yeah, no. I like the relationship they definitely have, because they're definitely like, just like, realistically, it's like in the 80s, no one would have put it again, but like almost be like, hey, we got two gay guys moving in next to us. It just happens to be that they're vampires, and actually, well, they're not gay. They actually just bring in women off the street, apparently. But at first glance, we were just wondering why these two like 40-year-old men were moving in.
It's just like some kind of like, they don't think they're gay or anything like that, but just some like hardcore like Reagan voter. It's like, oh, there's two strapping young men moving in together right there. Oh, look, they're helping each other do squats in the backyard. Keep it up, boys. It's gonna be a good night. You guys going out looking for girls tonight? Like, yeah, sure. I mean, for one reason or another, yeah, we are. Yeah. Like, oh, well, keep at it. Like, all right. A couple nice young boys over there. They look like they're 40, but all right. Now there's the whole part with because when it gets to, I forgot the guy's name, Billy or something, but when it gets to him and you find out, oh, he's not like just a typical slave or whatever, or like a manservant, but he's like reanimated, or he's a zombie or something, or some variation, because when it takes a couple bullets and like he turns into like a puddle of like green goo, and the skeletons all left behind, like the creature effects of this movie are really good.
Well, that's almost like the best part of it, is like that all the makeup effects, creature effects, all like the stop motion, like everything in this one is like the special effects. I think that's the thing that makes it like so much better than Lost Boys. Lost Boys are still good, but like it does not have nearly as good special effects as this one does. Like this one's got the kind that are literally up there with like American Werewolf in London. Like it's like that, like high end, like they just, especially like compared to like nowadays, like you never get stuff that good. That's like the only thing about the remake I feel is like I bet you the remake's all probably CG or majority CG and stuff, so that would be the interesting thing there.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I heard people say the only thing that makes the remake is, the only thing bad about the remake is it's just, why would you? It doesn't need to happen, because this one's already so good and so classic. But at the same time, apparently Colin Farrell does, like the whole cast does a really good job. Apparently, from what I've heard, so I've never seen it. But so just for seeing Colin Farrell as a sexy vampire, that in itself I think would be worth alone.
I didn't think about that. Like when I was thinking Colin Farrell, I literally thought he was playing the Peter Vincent character. I didn't picture him like, oh, I guess he could be the vampire. That actually makes more logical sense. I don't know why my first thing was he's playing the Rodney McDowell role.
No,
because that's what I was thinking. That's why I was thinking of him playing Peter Vincent. So you could have it like, I'll kill the vampire. I only thought I was an actor. Yeah.
No, he's and David Tennant is playing the Peter Vincent character.
Okay. Well, okay. That's interesting then. Boy, was I backwards on that. It makes total. The second you say that, it makes 100% sense. So that's like Colin Farrell at like the height of his, sexiness. I don't know if he ever got on People Magazine Sexiest Man of the Year, but he probably was in the running.
I forgot his last name, but Anton Jokovich is like Charlie.
Yeah.
So
it'd be even weird if McLovin for some reason was, the sexy vampire.
Like, hey, just still playing it like McLovin. Like, hey, ladies. Like, I don't know what it is about him. It just works. but he has still fucking fake ID from Superbad. Yeah, I'm really 21 years old. Yeah, no. No, there's that part where what was I gonna say? There's the part where something about, I want to say it was something regarding Jerry the vampire. I think it's kind of interesting because what I like about vampire movies, because sometimes they just make them all monster, or sometimes they make them all class. It's not uncommon for them to have different forms and different versions of themselves. But I kind of like when like this movie has the wide range. Because he has different forms. He has sexy version, then he has like beastly version, then he has like the middle ground version. And I kind of like when he's slipping into beastly version, when he's that midway point, he has that kind of like, it can often come across as cheesy, but I think when done right, it comes across really good. And when he's all like, it's like when he does the vampire, doing that kind of shit when he's like in his halfway form. But I think that works because it comes across more as like, not like I'm doing a Transylvanian accent. It comes more across like this monster trying to be human, like it knows what it wants to say, but it can't really say it properly. So it has this weird speech impediment. Like, I think that kind of, at least that's how it came across to me.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that kind of how it is, because once he starts transforming, they do really take on a big change. And the cool thing too is there's a lot of transformation scenes. There's probably about 4 transformation scenes throughout this whole movie of just like the different people that get kind of infected and so on like that. And I know that it's just talking about the special effects, but jumping ahead, I just thought I'd say this before I forgot it, was when Amy transforms into the vampire towards the end, like that, when I saw it, I was like, oh shit, that's where they must have got the look from Melina out of Mortal Kombat, because the way her face is when she got the Baraka teeth and everything like that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's 100% like what those characters all look like in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and when I first saw the poster of this movie, before I actually saw the movie, I'm like, all right, when does this fucking thing come in? I'm like, oh, that's the girlfriend?
Yeah. Well, they make it look like a ghost on the cover, sort of in a weird way.
Like, you wouldn't guess immediately it's a vampire movie from looking at the cover.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is I didn't even know it was a vampire movie when I looked at it. Like, I was like, Fright Night, cool, okay. Like, I was almost thinking it was going to be in like that Poltergeist style almost. I don't even know what. I said, I had no idea what I was getting into, to tell you the truth. It's like when you think you know something and you don't. And it's like, oh, hey, vampires. What do you know? Rear Window.
So that's gonna be a pleasant surprise right there when you kind of like, you just seem okay. It's gonna be okay. It's trying to do the poltergeist. I almost said poltergeist thing, but then like to find out, oh, okay, it's vampires. Oh, okay, and then it just has that build up from there. And especially, I do think it's a steady build up, because it does start off kind of like calm, and it kind of only gets more. I mean, it is a movie should, but it doesn't seem like. Because I like how Jerry even comes in. He tries to reason with Charlie a few times. He comes in like, all right, man, you found out early on. That's good for you. But shit can go sideways. And then like Charlie has to keep on like, I don't hate Charlie, but he's not the brightest guy, but things just kind of work in his favor. He's kind of like the Ash Ketchum of vampire slayers when you think about it. He just kind of stumbles into winning in some cases. And he just happens to have like a cross on him. And in that moment, he's like, oh, and then like, it's not like the whole night is not him just trying to survive. Then it's just like, I got until nighttime tomorrow to figure something out, because he's going to be back. So it's just basically, shit, he's looking for me. I fucked up. I didn't finish the job last night, so he's come back for me tonight. Fuck, that whole kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's that part where he goes over to what's his name? Is it
Evil Ed?
Yeah, Ed. He goes over to his house or whatever. He's like, yo, dude, I got some vampires. You're a fucking nerd. Tell me what to do. like he's got that kind of thing on there. And that guy, even though that guy has like, he's got that weird, he's not like I almost kind of like the way that character, the Evil Ed guy's kind of written. He's like obnoxious, but I feel like that character feels very realistic, because it's not just like a stereotypical nerd guy. It's like one of those kind of nerd kids who's like actually believes that he's cooler than everybody else at school at the same time. And he's also kind of the kid who will like say all kinds of like jackass remarks and so on like that, and actually be kind of witty in a way, but also be kind of like that fucking guy again. Like, you know, like he's got that perfect like attitude dialed in, and it's one of those kind of characters you actually don't see very often in movies. I think that's kind of the interesting thing about his kind of role and the way he kind of plays it and so on like that. But when he tells him that, he's like, yo, you know, get some garlic, you know, get the steaks, you know, get your crosses out and everything like that. And just make sure nobody invites him in. Then I like when he goes back to his house, his mom's like, oh, I invited the neighbor. And he's like, fucking mom, why didn't you get them out? You're supposed to invite him in. Don't give him cocktails. What are you doing?
He's drinking a Bloody Mary too, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Fitting. Well, the Evil Ed thing, because what I thought was good about him is, you're right, he does come across as, I mean, he is over the top, but I feel like we all knew that little gothic edgelord back in high school, and that's like multi-generational, and there's always some version of that character or person, and they would always say there would be a level of wit to them, but there also would be this level of like, God, this guy is so fucking annoying. But there also would be a little like, he's a little more clever than I assumed he would be. And at the exact same time, there'd be this other level of, how do I put it? Of kind of like, this movie does the thing where it kind of shows that that guy has like a vulnerability. Like he kind of knows, like we kind of know it's a little bit more of a facade he puts on to kind of cover how insecure he is. And the movie addresses that, where maybe you might know that, but that guy would never show it back in the day, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And well, I think that's sort of the thing. It's like almost I feel like him and Charlie aren't realistically friends. It's just like they almost are like, they're just kind of like, okay, classmates, we have to work together on certain things here, but if there's somebody who might answer my questions, this is the only guy I can really turn to.
For a minute, it is kind of the like anime trio for a minute. It's cool collective guy, crazy wild guy, woman.
Yeah, woman.
It is kind of the anime trio for a sec when they're trying to bring him down. And I even kind of like how they like, because this movie has a lot of phases to it, because it seems like it's going to be just kind of like a very, we just got to stay a step ahead of this vampire, which I'm doing wrong. All in the context of a night trying to escape a vampire, that in itself could be a cool movie. But I kind of like the different layers of it and how other people start to succumb to it one way or another and realize, oh, this Charlie's not bullshitting us, you know, like how Peter Vincent's just this washed up, you know, actor who's just playing it off like, oh, yes, I really did kill vampires. Wink, you know, yeah, sure. And then like they go over there and Peter Vincent's like, whatever, a job's a job. And he just dismissing it all, and he's not really even challenging. He's when they go to prove that Jerry's not a vampire, like, hey, can you just prove to our friend that he's fucking stupid? And you know, this is all. So you know, he's just like, can you hold this cross? Well, you see, I'm a born again Christian. To treat a cross that way, it would just be sacrilegious. Like, oh, I understand. Don't make him hold the cross. No, Charlie, that's rude. Come on. Here, drink the. Can you drink this holy water? Like, it's not. It's holy water, right? Like, yes, it's holy water. He's like, he chugs it. He's just like, he didn't even fucking bless it. Drink it again. Drink. Let me bless it. You know, like, Charlie, we're being dicks. Let's get out of here. You know. And then as they're leaving, when the Peter Vincent notices the lack of reflection, that's just like, shit just got fucking real. He has to get the fuck out of there.
He makes a beeline. He's just like booking into the car. Like, see you guys later. Keep the $500. It's not worth it.
And like to the point of he's like packing his fucking bags, like, holy shit, I was in the house of the beast. I gotta get the fuck out of here. All this shit talking I was doing for years.
Yeah, that's literally what they're paying me for on TV, was just to, you know, talk about how much vampires I've been killing. And I love how, like, the movie they always mention, it's like, oh, dude, you were fucking great in Orgy of the Dead. Like that's his prime go-to movie.
Orgy of the Dead, like, dude, like, just like, it doesn't even sound like a real movie. It sounds like a porn, you know. So the idea.
Well, I want to say there was a movie that literally has a very, very similar title that it was like one of Ed Wood's like last ones was literally like something like Orgy of the Dead kind of thing. Okay. So I think that's what it's almost like sort of a play on. you know, like past all of Ed Wood's like, you know, big hit movies to in the 70s, following it up when you got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. This seems like somebody who would like make a reference to Ed Wood in that way.
Yeah.
You know, like and then there's like the slow buildup of like even like, you know, because Ed would always like, "You're so cool, Brewster," which is gonna almost be like one of the taglines of the movie or whatever. And then how like Jerry corners him in the alley at some point. It's like, "Oh, this guy's gonna fuck me." Like, no, he's just gonna bite you. "Oh, okay," you know. And then, but then he even like I like how like as they're leaving, you know, they hear him scream at the top of their lungs. They look over their shoulder. "He just fucked with us. Don't worry about it. Just keep on walking."
Yeah, it's like, well, Charlie's like, what was the boy who cried wolf thing? Like, well, he fucking got what he deserved.
Yeah, exactly.
The girlfriend really just like throws him on the bus, be like, you know what? Yeah.
Well, I will say that the girlfriend, she does start off. What's her name again?
Amy.
Amy, right? Amy. Amy starts off as very much kind of mousy, like, "Well, I don't know about this, Charlie." Well, Charlie, kind of like an angry girlfriend from Archie, is kind of how she starts off.
Yeah.
But as she
like,
goes
"Jughead, I can't believe you left me there last night."
Yeah. And then but then as it goes on, even before she gets hypnotized and bit, she starts to become a little bit more of like, kind of like a little more of kind of like pushing it forward. Like, "All right, Charlie, let's just prove it to you. This is all a bunch of dumb shit," you know? So I like where she goes as it progresses. Eventually she does like get cornered and bitten. But I think it's interesting the way they kind of show the process. Cause it's like when they're trying to get away from Jerry and they sneak into the nightclub, and how Jerry is just kind of like, it's like she's trying to avoid him, and he eventually corners her, and she kind of knows she's fucked. But then like in the process, it's not like she's immediately smitten with him. We kind of see the hypnotization process. Like, I like how many aspects of vampires they managed to get into like this one movie. Cause I feel like a lot of times people also leave out the "you have to invite them in" thing.
Yeah, well, that's I think what's kind of cool is this one plays to all the rules. Like that's what it does. It focuses on like literally, here's all the rules. We're going to use all the classic ones there, but we're going to kind of mix match both monster vampires in with sexy vampires in with, you know, like they got all the levels of things, you know, to kind of keep it going. And that nightclub scenes actually is kind of neat when they're kind of in there, and it's like he's pulling her in, she's trying to pull away, pulls her in farther, she tries to get away more. Like it's got that kind of like she's not just instantly taken in. There's still like this effort back and forth, but you can see that she can't, you know, get away from sexy Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, it just speak. Well, because for a minute it comes because you see some of the other girls he's with, and it's somewhat at a first glance comes across like, well, look at them. Of course they're there. But then you kind of realize in that scene that it is a little bit more of like a there's resistance, and so who knows? That kind of adds context to those other girls. Like, oh, did the same thing happen with them, or you know, kind of like in that way. So just the trying to get away, but then it almost kind of gets more creepy the way he kind of comes in closer like that. So I will say the whole part where like she's all like done up as the girl in like the in the portrait or whatever, and like he says, "All right, lose it," you know. That part was like that was a little hard to watch. I mean, there's worse things. There's definitely worse things in vampire shit now, you know. I mean, or in movies in general. But at the same time, just like she's like probably supposed to be 17 right here. Okay, whatever.
She's 400.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
hey, 17 was 43 back in was equal to 43 back in the like 1400s, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, well, it's a vampire. Like he's not law abiding. Yeah, exactly. That's like that's like the most minor crime he's done.
I'm not being one of those people like shame on this movie from the 80s. You know? I'm not doing that. This problematic vampire movie from the 80s. Just one of those parts where just like it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you know, just like
it was probably produced by Jerry Lee Lewis. I just know it.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like there, it's just like I guess that's the thing that kind of apparently, you know, with the happy 80s ending of it, it's like all it takes is a little bit of vampire dick.
Just a little bit of vampire dick, yeah. Well, they do also treat the thing like the bite is more like So I don't even know if he fucks him. I think he just goes for the bite and then he's done. I think that's
it might be kind of one of those ones. He's got his man.
Yeah,
he's got the needs taken care of. Yeah. That's what Billy's there for.
How'd the bite go? Oh, bite went awesome. Like this. All right, blow me. All right, cool.
Yeah, I want you to clean that off. Clean that woman off me real quick.
The thing is, it's also totally gonna bro way. Like, do you want to watch the game now? Oh, you fucking know that. Just wipes his mouth, gets back up, just sitting there.
Exactly. Fucking slap high fives. We ordering pizza tonight? Fuck yeah, we are.
Like they're just the two broiest dudes just happen to blow each other once in a while. That's all it is. Actually, I'm guessing it's a one-way street on that one. In all honesty, thinking back.
Yeah, that's the Renfield thing, but so I think this movie needs to go in the bromance category, you know.
Like the bromance collection.
Yeah, I feel like someone's like, really, like what's the bromance part like, dude? Didn't you see the two vampire guys? Like, oh, yeah, it's like the most bromance there is in any movie. Like, let's be honest, that's more than Fight Club in that kind of bromance section.
That's true. Yeah, and one of them gets shot in the head at the end by the other guy. So there you go. Which
proves he's not a zombie, but that really makes me confused on what the hell he's supposed to be.
I think he's supposed to be like maybe like a reanimated corpse or something. I have no idea. Because it's like it took a lot. Like, it took like multiple things to kill him. So I don't really know. It's kind of hard to say. Apparently, the second movie has a proper werewolf, which going back to the vampire powers in this, I like the wide range of vampire stuff because they have the whole thing where you have to let them in. Vampires can't always hypnotize people, but they can in this, which is cool. You know, I feel like every vampire power is on display, and I just thought that was kind of interesting because I usually feel like they tone them down. It's usually only like one or two of them. I feel like in most movies. Where this one is like, they can turn into animals, they can turn into monsters. But they have to be invited in, and but they still have all the weaknesses too. Yeah,
well, that's the kind of cool thing is because it's got literally the vampires turn into wolves, they turn into bats, they turn into mist. In this, it's like it's got every single like one that like he can do, just like Dracula and things like that. Which I just think that's kind of cool because a lot of times it's mostly it's reserved to like one power or the other, or they do that thing like I feel like where they go in like sort of like modern ones, they like do that one where like, you know, those things are just myths, like, you know, the holy water doesn't do anything, or, you know, I can walk out in the sunshine and sparkle and, you know, all those things. But it's like, I kind of almost like the classicness. I like the old school, like, just the old school weaknesses, you know, don't change that. Like, this is like all this stuff. And I think that's what makes this movie kind of cool is it follows all that, but it gives you an 80s, in a sense, modern feel of that time period.
Yeah. And then even like, well, I think one of the coolest effects is like, I think is like, you know, is like, how do I put this? As fan servicey as this is towards horror stuff, I do like the little bit of like emotion or details to get through personality in this movie. Like going back to the thing with like, we see it's just not boom, you're hypnotized. There's a process to it. We see a little bit of that. Even with like say Evil Ed, he's not just the cackling idiot. There's a little bit of like something more to him. Peter Vincent, he could have just been a shitheel who disappeared, but he comes back and he kind of feels the need to like prove himself. So I kind of like how everybody, like this thing is where something just seems like both character wise as well as like I guess powers and gimmick wise, there's more to it. Like for instance, when Evil Ed becomes the wolf for a minute. And first off, you get like some real like gross, awesome looking like that wolf transformation scene. The scene takes so long just because he's transforming for so long. But at the exact same time, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I froze. My bad.
Oh.
At the same time, it's kind of worth it because you just see like the form. You can tell you that thing where they melted like a wax hand on like skeleton, but then like a fake skeleton, but they just reversed it or rewinded it so it looked like it reformed, you know, like just cool effects like that. And then they did that thing where right before he like dies or supposedly dies, it looks like he gets his humanity back. So Peter Vincent is kind of like, I killed a boy.
I'll kill a little boy.
Yeah. That's where you have Colin Farrell playing that guy.
Well, those. You know what's the weirdest one I think about is, okay, we got Evil Ed sitting there on the floor. What happens when Charlie's mom comes home and there's just a dead naked boy and a laying on the front, right in the beginning?
Like, she's
shit.
She was working late. I guess that's where you have that Pulp Fiction, like, we gotta handle this before Bonnie gets home kind of thing. But maybe it's like, I guess that's where you, after they just slayed the evil vampire, like, but wait a minute, my mom gets home in 20 minutes. What? Like, the like back and forth camera. Then you have the 80s cleanup montage.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I guess kind of happened. I mean, they do have that sort of thing at the total end, like evil, like when he's like looking across, like just like the beginning, it opens up the same way that the movie starts off, where it kind of zooms in on the house and they're, hanging out there, making out and whatnot, and then it kind of goes like, "Hey, what are you doing? Look out that window again." He's like, "Oh, I thought I saw something." Fuck it. Cut to cool music, and then you kind of hear like evil, like almost the evil. I was like, "Whoa!"
With like red eyes popping out in the darkness.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like, maybe he just sort of saw it. It's supposed to be kind of funny. I like to assume that he's just dead.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think it kind of left it open for a sequel, or
yeah,
they're not done yet. But because I think that
might be Fright Night 2 for all we know.
Well, no, it's not, because he's not in Fright Night 2. There is other vampires in Fright Night 2. Apparently, there was going to be another character in there, but I guess they couldn't get that actor back or whatever reason, so they just made it a different character. But yeah,
originally that guy's schedule is filled up.
We don't know what he had going on, but I don't know what happened. But like, yeah, he didn't come back for it. So, or they just didn't. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, originally it was meant to be him, but it was some other character for the sequel. But no, he wasn't the main character. He wasn't a main character. He wasn't the main character. He was just one of the. There's multiple vampires in the next one. So, but yeah, no, I just kind of like that though, where you get to see like a glimpse of humanity before he dies. Like the idea of like, oh, he's turning. I know this isn't the only movie to do that, but I feel like that this movie kind of uses the whole buffalo rather than just like, oh, sunlight and biting people,
Yeah, no, it's got a lot of that stuff kind of going on there. And even like the things too where like, Peter Vincent at first when he's like, "Oh, but you know what, that cross only works if you believe," and like that, it's like Peter Vincent's like, and I don't know if that's what that's supposed to be implying, like more than anything else, like in the 80s, it's like, because he's an actor, it's like, I wonder if it's like really supposed to be going like, "Oh, I know why you're not Christian," one of those things.
He just gets down like, Jesus! He just like, Jesus comes like Super Saiyan in from the sun, just like he just kicks him in the face.
Well, I sort of felt like, because like there's that beginning part where like when Peter Vincent's not convinced, but it feels like that second part where like he's doing that again, he's like, "Come on, man, you don't fucking believe." It's like, dude, I fucking believe now because I saw it actually works. The power of Jesus.
I think it's two things. I think it's like third act shit, but then I also think like he believes that they're real, but at the same time, like, whatever, vampires. I never took the time to question like about like religion or anything like that. But I mean, I'm not sure if they ever got anything across about Charlie being religious, which that's actually kind of a thing.
Obviously, he believes that's because it works, because according
to
the
from the first go, like he believes in that. He doesn't believe in saving for marriage. He has his limits. But like,
but if it involves vampires, he's a believer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he goes to Sunday school. He he believes all that kind of shit, But as soon as he just like means he gets a chance to get his dick sucked, he's like, we could skip that page of the Bible. It's fine.
Okay.
The way it usually goes.
It's not like Jesus wrote those pages.
Jesus would get it. He hung out with hookers all day.
Yeah, exactly. Shit, I just watched a hooker walk next door, and then she was murdered on TV. Next thing you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there is kind of like that interesting. It makes you always kind of wonder too, is like, does that work for other religious symbols and so on like that for fighting off vampires, or is vampires just really anti-Christian at the end of the day? You know what I mean? If you have a Star of David, does it do anything?
Well, I wonder if it's regional. Like if there's if like if it's like say a Japanese vampires, do you have to like follow the Shintoism or anything like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's like those kind of things. Like, or is it? I mean, it's all like.
What happens if it's a communist vampire? Do you know what I mean? You don't have religion. What do you got to use against those ones?
Yeah. Money. Just throw money at it.
Oh, capitalism! No, he's starting his own business. Oh.
Instead of church, you can't go inside of like a McDonald's or a Walmart. You know. So.
we need to get Sam from Walmart to stop him. He's our Lord and Savior.
Comes in like on a gold-plated helicopter. Yeah. He's like, where is that dirty fucking commie bastard? He pulls out like some old fucking musket.
One of those commie vampires.
Just has like a wall mounted with their heads. You know, like I even got one in the bathroom. It just like piss in its mouth every morning. No, there is like shit. What was the other example I was gonna make? There's something about. Well, I think that a lot of it just comes from the whole like Jesus thing. I think a lot of it just stems from like. So this is me going off what I heard a long time ago, but a lot of the things we think about like vampires and zombies kind of cross together through like old superstition and whatnot. And there's just one of those things. I don't remember what disease it was, but there's a disease that was going around, and like somebody's like, "Oh, it said some bullshit like, oh, you know, if you the way you're going to stop your daughter from coming back to life and making sure she goes to heaven is you got to like." Like dig her up, pull out her heart, stab it, burn something of her, eat it, drink it, or some shit like that, and that should make it all go away. And then it spins off from there. So I think all the religious stuff stems from superstition stuff at the time. So it just got slated. It got slated with like Christianity.
That advice probably came from a friar with his feet kicked up on like the fucking sofa, eating like some potato chips and drinking some beer he just brewed, and was like, "Yeah, sure, that's what you gotta fucking do." You sure about that? Fuck yeah, it sounds right to me. What, you don't believe me? I'm a friar. I drink all day. I got great ideas. I don't work. I'm bald. I'm a friar. You made that already. Yeah, well, fuck it. You're questioning me? You get some fucking more potato chips.
What else do I gotta fucking lose? Yeah, you know. Well, there's also like this.
If it doesn't work, we'll think of something else. Come on, I'm an open guy.
I want to say that's also something to like. It was back. I used to listen to that show Lore, and then after a while, they stopped covering all the common stuff, and they started just talking about like, oh, a ghost story from this part of the world that maybe it did or didn't happen. But back when they covered a lot of earlier stuff where this part of this superstition or this vampire story or this werewolf story started, this is how it happened. And I want to say vampires it was something to the effect of just people assuming you would rise from the dead if you weren't like baptized. It was something like if you were a bad Christian and you didn't do this right, you were going to become a vampire or a zombie. So here's how you stop that from happening. Dig out their heart, burn it, mix it into something, drink it, and hey, they're going to heaven and you're a good boy. Some shit like that.
And these are all those things that when you don't have video games in life, you just start getting weird ideas. Get bored on a Tuesday.
Yeah, you're just like, well, I mean, I was just drawing. What's my Game Boy? Drawing with a dirt and stick. You know, that's my Game Boy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's all that kind of stuff and so on like that. Well, I mean, and it's like obviously like when that stuff all kind of came about, it was during the time when like Christianity's had like an iron fist rule, so it like made kind of sense. Probably if another religion had an iron fist rule, it would change up that like origin.
Well, it's kind of like we said this before. Like if we lived in an alternate reality where Norse mythology was the dominating religion in the West, then we wouldn't have like probably Marvel's Thor. We'd have Marvel's Jesus, you know? So,
Yes.
you know, so we probably, it's like, oh yeah, it's one of those silly religions that never really, it's from a long time ago. It's all good though, you know?
Yeah.
It's cool. If he dies, if he dies, he comes back 3 days later. That's
it'd be like one of those religions. Be like, like 2,000 years ago, somebody thought they had this brand new thing that was going to replace like the classicness, and what a bunch of fucking idiots they were. You know what I mean? We put them all down and everything like that. Kicked those Roman guys right square in the nuts like they deserved, and Norse came back.
Yeah, can't stop Odin, son.
Yeah, instead, it happened the other way around. And those dirty Romans and their powerful conquering skills.
They thought some fucking hippie going, "Hey man, want some fish?" They thought that was gonna fucking beat a dude with a hammer. Come the fuck on. Sure enough, it happened. What are you gonna do?
But obviously it worked out, because some people are like, you know what, I'm not a guy with a hammer. That actually sounds kind of nice. Like if we don't have to start smashing each other every once in a while, and if I could go to heaven without having to die in a cool battle, well, I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of just being a nice guy and not doing a whole lot. And you're telling me I can brew beer all day long and shave the top part of my head and eat potato chips and kick my feet up on the couch and give people weird advice? Well, yeah, fuck it, sign me up for Jesus. I'll be a friar.
And somebody's like, how do we stop people how do we, like, somebody says, like, dude, someone's going to rise from the dead. How do we stop that from happening? Dig up their heart and burn it. Then what do I do with that? Shrink it. I don't give a shit. Do what the fuck you want. And that's like, Bram Stoker's like, I got an idea. So
yeah, we're going to bring this all together in a more sophisticated way. Unlike fucking Friar Tuck's version.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is kind of interesting when you think about, like, if there was another dominating religion, would still be like, what's the Muslim version of the vampire? How do they bring down a vampire? Like all that kind of thing. Or what would Shintoism? How would they bring down a vampire? Like, just things in that way. But regardless, this is.
I want to see like a vampire hunting society thing where it literally is like a mixed match of, like, you could probably sum it up to like 7 different religions so we don't get too wild. But like you give it like a Magnificent Seven sort of feel. Like there's like these 7, like, in a sense, like priest warrior guys from each like section. They're like, we have to all band together to make sure we can take down every variation of the vampire cause.
Well, then you get the neutral. I mean, you're wrong. Still a badass movie, but then you get the neutral, like atheist vampire movie, Blade, which is like, it's fucking, that's all bullshit. That's superstition horse shit. It's all fucking science. They're allergic to silver and they get burned easy in the sun. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it makes fucking sense. It's not this horse shit religion, So it's like, that's like the safe way out. But at the same time, though, this one right here, this is probably one of my favorite vampire movies, and I'm surprised we didn't cover it sooner. I'm surprised. I thought this is a movie, not to be. I'm glad you checked it out, but like, I'm surprised this is one you haven't seen before. I assume this is one you did.
Well, it's like so many.
I mean, that's not me trying to shame you or nothing. I'm just
there's so many movies in life, and you only see so many of them, and sometimes some of the ones kind of pass by. But no, I'm glad we did watch it, because I did think that this actually was one of the top tier vampire movies I've ever seen. I thought it was extremely good. The special effects are amazing. It's got a fun story in it, like just like the continuing progress of how everything sort of goes is cool. It's kind of interesting too, because it's one of those movies that, like, it sounds weird, but like it could literally be a PG-13. Like the way the story's set up is it's set up like it's a PG-13 horror movie. I mean, granted, it's 85, so that's maybe not. But then it like throws in the rated R-ness, violence, and all that kind of stuff, like that kind of top it off, which I think is like a cool combination of it, because it has that like almost like it sounds weird, but like a Steven Spielberg feeling, kind of like Poltergeist, like that kind of one there, But it's one of those ones, but it still retains all the good stuff that would make it a rated R movie, and I think that's kind of a interesting combination of everything.
Yeah, I didn't think about the Spielbergness of it, but that's a good. It's a good point. I guess anytime you have like a kid in the 80s, like peeking over a fence, like, what's this over here? That immediately invokes kind of Spielberg vibes. But yeah, that's a good point. And don't think I wasn't trying to be like, I'm surprised you've never seen it, and I'm like a fucking boomer dad, like talking, but like at the same time, just being like, but yeah, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Because there's, this is one of those. It's just one of those movies that I think is just a good go-to for Halloween, or just a good horror movie in general. And yeah, it's it used to be a habit of watching it like around Halloween every time, because I think I first saw it then. This is actually one of the first R-rated horror movies I saw, because I'm not gonna lie, for a long time, I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit of a puss, and I was too scared to watch a lot of horror movies when I was a kid. But this is one of the first R-rated horror movies I saw as a kid, and ended up really liking it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that I could see where this one actually is kind of a good, like, almost like gateway horror movie one, because it's not too extreme in any aspects where like it might be like sort of off-putting to certain things. It's not like you're showing someone like Dead Alive or something like that. Be like, hey, you never seen a horror movie before? Well, let's just fucking fast forward it to like, you know, like Endgame era, and we'll just get you a bunch of like nasty looking special effects.
Well, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean, like that. That's what I think makes this one kind of like, and the special effects are like totally solid. Not saying anything about that, but I think this one is kind of like a good, like, you could throw this on, because it's one thing about a lot of horror movies, and sometimes I've misread this many a times, where like you think you could sort of show horror movies to like a lot of people, and then sometimes you throw certain ones on, you're like, oh, I just offended half the people in the room. And when I was younger, I was proud of that moment. You'd be like, fuck yeah, I offended half the people in the room. I made her have to close her eyes halfway through this movie. Yeah, like that kind of stuff. Or like other movies in that kind of way, you know, where you just pick really violent movies to show people and like just test their like limits. Like by literally, instead of easing them into horror, you just take it to the far end of the spectrum, or the far end of like the gore and stuff like that, and just say, let's go with this.
Well, I think this one's a good kind of middle ground. Like, this definitely deserves its R rating, but I think that is a good, like, it's not like Evil Dead, because it's not as brutal as Evil Dead, but at the same time, it's also probably not as like grim as Evil Dead. That said, though, it still has a lot of like things that make horror movies like it cool. Like, the effects are really awesome. When there is violence, the violence is awesome, but it's usually violence more aimed at a monster or a creature than it is like a person, usually. Because, you know, when Jerry's bro dies, it's like he's like bleeding green slime, and you see him like fall apart, he melts, and he has a skeleton underneath it, kind of like some Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of shit. And then you also have like, I mean, I guess the most violent part is probably when Ed dies, because the slow process of him turning into a wolf, even though I love that part, but the process of him turning from a wolf back into a human is probably the most. And you even like, he has kind of like, it looks like, to go back to last week's episode, he has like, it looks like it was like, he was wearing like a leftover mask from the Isle of Dr. Moreau, because even when his face is kind of like changing from a wolf, it's not like a consistent change like that. It's like the nose is kind of on the other side of his face, and it is one eye is bigger than the other. So it just the little details like that.
Yeah, no. Well, and I think that's the thing, is because I can't remember when it is. I think it's 82 is when they kind of had like almost like another like code that got put up there, like, yo, you guys got to tone down these horror movies. They are getting way out of control, from like the late 70s into like the early 80s. And so I think what happened is that they're like, okay, well, you know what we can do? We can probably get around this by doing monster type stuff. We can't do more brutal human murders anymore, but if we can make them monsters and everything like that, and we make the blood kind of green and gooey, that was like a lot of times the workaround. So that's like kind of the same thing that why Evil Dead 2 has a lot more like kind of like the milk look and all that kind of stuff, is because the Evil Dead 1 still fit in that era where you could get away with like anything you wanted. But by the time, I think it's 82, because I think Prom Night's the very first movie that gets really like hacked to pieces for like the censor board and all that stuff. And they had like just pull like, you know, all their brutal murders out of the film.
I was showing my wife Cabin in the Woods, because she's never seen it, and there's the part where they're at the wife board and they're making the bets of the monsters, and we pause it for a second and we're looking at the names, like Angry Molesting Tree. I had to stop and say, okay, You've
Yeah.
never seen Evil Dead, but let me explain.
Let me explain. There's this little thing here, you know.
So
But
once
yeah.
you could probably once Evil Dead, like, all right, guys, a tree raped a lady. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think that was kind of what happened. They had like almost like a code, like kind of like the 1934 code or whatever, where like it wasn't like as intense, but like they were starting to get to that, like, you know, that why Tarantino hates the 80s kind of like era, because they start telling people what they can and can't do in their movies. And it's not said that there's not great gore and violence you can find throughout, but like they do tone it down, or they have to change it up. But sometimes that makes for kind of nastier ways, and other, you know, just by having like using different colors. You know, sometimes like I think green and white, like the milk stuff in Evil Dead 2, can almost look kind of nastier looking anyways.
Looks grosser, yeah.
Yeah. So you have that. The other interesting thing I thought too is this guy Tom Holland, who directed this movie.
Yeah.
You know, he also did Child's Play. That was the other real big one he did.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
of course, he's
out...
involved in a bunch of other, like, you know, horror movies. Like he was like the writer, like Psycho 2 and Class of '84. I kind of saw, but like I feel like Fright Night and Child's Play under his belt. I'm like, well, geez, that guy's got like two of, like, you know, at least the top like 20 historically big, you know, kind of movies.
It's funny you mentioned Psycho 2 as well as Tarantino, because I heard like a sound clip of him somewhere saying, because, you know, it's one of those edgy Tarantino takes. He says, like, now, despite what everyone thinks, like, sure, I like Hitchcock. I like Hitchcock fine. But to me, he was always a little overboard. You know, like, he says, like, I'll say it. I like Psycho 2 more than Psycho 1. Because there's more of a, you know, and he was going off on this thing, like, first off, the balls of someone coming in and saying they're going to make Psycho 2. How many years after the fact? And he went on this, like, 5-minute thing of, like, why he likes Psycho 2 more, which I didn't even know Psycho 2 existed until I just came across this clip.
Oh, really?
So
I knew about that one back in the day as a kid, because I knew of all the other, like, variations of Psycho just from watching Psycho and seeing the other ones, too.
Well, I knew the remake, but I didn't know about an official Psycho 2. So I'm like, all right, now I'm kind of curious. So maybe I'll check out Psycho 2 at some point. But I know that because I'll be honest, Child's Play was one of those movies as a kid. I mean, I don't think I'd be sad. I could probably watch it now, no problem. But that was one of those movies as a kid. I was like probably too freaked out to watch, because, like I said, I was kind of a puss when it came to horror films, and now I probably laugh at the idea of a killer doll by this point. So I know this is the same director. Now I'm like, okay, now I feel a little bit more of a need. Not because I think some people will be like, Child's Play. Well, this guy also made this movie over here. I'm like, oh, well, this guy made Fright Night. So maybe I got to check out this Child's Play thing.
Yeah, well, that's what kind of like when you know directors and so on like that too, you know. And it's even funny because you mentioned the Tarantino thing. It's like I really don't. Tarantino almost like because he makes a point to always say how much he doesn't really care for Alfred Hitchcock, but I feel like sometimes he does that. You know that thing where people say that, like, because nobody says that, so that it's like to say that you're like, oh, look at him, he's kind of edgy, but he's like, well, his thing is like, well, you know, Alfred Hitchcock, if he maybe was directing movies in the 70s and farther up when he could actually do whatever he wanted, it'd probably be better. But he doesn't like the restraint that he has to have in all his films.
Well, I'm not sure if he's. I'm kind of going off. Did he say that somewhere? Because I know you're working through.
He says that like multiple times in like his books and so on like that, and then on his podcast and everything. Feels like, yeah, if anything kind of gets brought up by Alfred Hitchcock, I think it's people probably. If I had to guess, this is probably what happened. Is probably a lot of people go like, "Man, you must really love old Alfie Hitchcock's films," and he's just like, oh, "No, not really." Like one of those kind of things. Like, yeah, everybody thinks that I probably do, but yeah, they're okay. He never says they're like bad. He kind of gives it like they're not as legendary as people make them out to be.
He's seen so much. I'm sure once you kind of get, let me do it wrong. Any movie he makes, I'm there to see. That said, though, when I hear some of his takes in like things here and there, I guess when you watch as much movies as he does, at some point you get like, I've seen this, whatever. So you kind of go for the weirder, edgier thing, or the one that people aren't expecting. But at the exact same time, another part of me is like, really, dude, that movie? Like, I don't know. When I heard I was looking at a listicle one time, and who knows how accurate this thing is, but I want to say he said somewhere on this listicle, like his favorite director, which is one that really caught me off guard. I assumed it would be some random director from the 70s who only made 4 movies. These 4 movies are amazing, or something kind of like that. But I think it was like Brian De Palma, I think is his favorite director, which I'm like, really? Brian De Palma? I mean, he loves Hitchcock, but
yeah, that guy kind of. Well, he goes on a big chapter in that, like, in the whatever the heck the second book he has is Cinema Speculation or whatever. And he likes Brian De Palma in the 70s. He doesn't like him past that. He thinks in the 80s on up, he's not very good anymore.
So he doesn't like Carlito's Way. Okay.
I don't think he likes that. I don't think he likes Scarface. So, well, he might like Scarface. I don't know. That might be pushing it. But then he doesn't really care for, he's not like he's like, shit, what's the best one? Mission Impossible.
Doesn't like The Untouchables.
Yeah, he might not like that. I don't know. That'd be an interesting one because it seems like the second that like he feels like the 80s is just like the death zone for him, which is, I always hate to sort of say it because I'm like, it's like, don't get me wrong, I love 70s movies. That's one of my favorite decades of stuff. But 80s and 70s to me kind of go hand in hand. Like I know they're kind of different, but like there's so much good in the 80s. It's so weird to like. I mean, I think it's just because like I think what it is, it's like it's almost that thing that like. If you're a kid growing up in this kind of like era and this is like your whole generation and then that sort of like is taken away from you, I think that's what it kind of feels like. It feels, what it feels like? This is how I feel nowadays. There's that thing where all the physical media is just falling off the face of the earth all at once. It's like, I see that and I go, it's like, oh, how am I supposed to go on? It's like, that's all I know is buying VHSs, DVDs, Laserdisc, and Blu-rays. You take that away from me. It's like you're taking my soul. There's no reason for me to go to the store. What is there for me anymore? There's nothing. There's nothing. That's why
I left the house.
Yeah, I have no reason. You take away the theater. You take away, the DVDs. Like, you might as well just finish me off now. I can't go on any longer.
There's actually kind of a funny thing about this movie. I was like, you mentioned it links both to the movie as well as physical media. Like I'm kind of a little mad at myself. When I first moved to San Francisco, I brought this big accordion case of DVDs with me, and I just picked a bunch of my favorite movies and then a couple of random ones in the back, just for, like, well, you never know. You might want to watch this movie. You might want to watch Versus. You might want to watch the special features, The Dogma. You never know, so, yeah. But then like I was going through, I got Fright Night. Fright Night's one of my favorite horror movies. I probably have Fright Night. So I'm flipping through it. And like, this is the same thing I've carried with me from San Francisco all the way to here. And I haven't, so I mean, it's probably in here. So I'm flipping through. I'm like, and I got kind of mad at myself. Some movies I have, like I brought Lost Boys with me, but I didn't bring Fright Night. I have Kung Fu Hustle, but I don't have Fright Night. I had like there are like some of the movies I did have in there. I'm like, don't get me wrong. I like.
I have Legend of Chun-Li. What was I thinking?
No, I did not do that. Not that. But it's just like. It's like, like I just some of the things, I can't think of all of them right now, but there's definitely movies in there that I'm like, what is this doing in here? But no Fright Night. What the fuck is wrong with me? I did have a little bit of that, Man of Steel special features. This could have been Fright Night, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like I bought Fright Night. It was on sale on, I think, Amazon or whatever. I was like, you know what? There we go. I'll just take that. Like, I was thinking, like, I could rent it or I could just have it. I'm like, it's twice the price to own it. Let's just own it because I feel like this. I feel this is gonna be a keeper. That was my thought process in there.
It was the same cost to buy it as to rent it, so we just bought it.
Yeah, so it sounds like that. Well, it was half the price to rent it, but I just thought
over here it was different. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, geez. So you got lucky there. Which it's like I'm not against anything digital. Of course, I still have all that. I just like to be able to buy physical stuff as well too, because a lot of times it's something to do. Like I feel like it's getting pretty darn close to this like world where it's like, why even bother going out? There's literally nothing out there for you.
So you watch the movie?
I said, if they take away buying stuff in stores and taking away not even buying stuff in stores is really the greatest anyways. I buy most of my stuff online anyways, but they take away the movie theaters. It's like that's it. Just gonna stay inside. Like I feel like in 10 years from now, I'd be like, you won't go anywhere. Where the hell are you gonna go?
It's gonna be your road, your mountain road. And when we talk about like, oh yeah, like they like like we were back when we were like we were like you record out in the mountains. Like it's not It's not like a little cabin that's like in like a cul-de-sac with other cabins. No, it's literally out in the mountains, folks. Literally out in the mountains. So when like people come out and so when people say like, "Hey, what's that house up there? I've never seen anybody leave, but there's always like a flickering light on at like at the top window." Like, "Oh, that's old man Egan's comes out like raking. Like that's old man Holmes's place. He hasn't had much reason to leave since everything went digital, and but if the internet goes out, he goes a looking and things get violent. So best be not carrying any DVDs on you."
I literally do think that I am going to become that person, because I'm going to realize that I have nowhere to go. I've got nowhere else to go. There's nothing out there for me. I will become like, "Oh, I said, old man, like, they say he has over 10,000 DVDs.
like just one of those things, like just a flickering light. Like, what's that? Why is it a flickering light? Well, obviously he's watching a movie, and then if you see a silhouette, it means you're too loud. So then like all of a sudden, like just like, "Oh man, Holmes, we don't think you're real." So it just appears in the window. Like, "Oh shit, where'd silhouette go?" Why'd you bring this box set? Why'd you bring this Blu-ray box set of young Indiana Jones with you? He's been looking for this one.
I was gonna make it as an offering. Believe me, he's got movies in there that you can't even find on the internet anymore. They say that Rob Zombie sometimes stops by his house just to borrow a film.
Bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia? Don't bring me your head.
Yeah, but it's the original cut before the studio took all the good stuff out. That's like, I was going down the rabbit hole of collecting stuff, because every once in a while I'll just be like, I got to get some of these VHSs. I got to get some of these Laserdiscs I need. I literally, for a second there, I was like, you know what I should get? I should get one of my favorite movies on 35 millimeter. That was a thought that ran across my mind for a moment. And I was looking them up on eBay. And then I was like, you know what? You're going to have an entire basket to hold this 35 millimeter in. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I'm like, I kind of just wanted, like, I was like, if I get one movie, like maybe like Last Action Hero or Super Mario Brothers or something like that. Don't bother looking for Super Mario, but it was like $10,000 for that thing on 35 millimeter. And I was like, hopefully, maybe if I could find one for like $500, that would be just kind of cool to have that one movie on there. And then I was like, stop. Wait a second. No.
$500.
Well, it's not cheap. I mean, like look how many like pieces of film that like a 35 millimeter is. It's like 6 reels.
Yeah.
There's a couple I found for like $100 that were like real old movies. Be like, hey, you know what? Here's the thing. There's no copyright on this movie now. You could buy this thing, and you could be the guy making the DVD versions. Huh? Think about it. 1941. Yeah. There was somebody out there that wants to watch this. Believe me, I really want to sell it. That's the main thing. You should see how this is taking up space in my eBay office.
Guys, come on. I got one you're not expecting. Major Pain.
I bet you Major Pain would be like $2,000+ for that thing.
I don't mean to keep harping back on this, but I just got I know you didn't watch it, but the first episode of the Jeffrey Dahmer show. It's
called Major Pain.
Yeah, they're watching Major Pain before he fucks them and kills them. The first episode of the Jeffrey Dahmer show. It's the victim that escapes and waves down the cops. But before, when the guy thinks he's just
I gotta say this really quickly. Is it literally called the Jeffrey Dahmer show? Like, hey, tonight on the Jeffrey Dahmer show.
No,
with special guest
John Wayne Gacy. No, it's called Dahmer, but it just like the Looney Tunes thing with him in the middle. Yeah, no.
I feel like they play him on in like it's Conan O'Brien or something like that.
Yeah, don't eat what he gives you. No, so it's just called Dahmer. But the first episode, he brings a guy over. The guy thinks they're just gonna fuck around or whatever, and then one thing leads to another. And at some point, he gets him at knife points. He's like, "No, you're not going anywhere. I just want to watch a movie with you. I'll watch Exorcist 2. So, we're going to watch Exorcist 2 and then we're going to party. I'm just imagining whoever, all right, guys, you just got 5 people hanging upside down with tape over their mouths. We like to talk during the movies. So I'm going to show you how we properly watch a movie. Okay. We're going to watch Dead or Alive, the unrated version on DVD. And you're not going to talk during the whole fucking movie, right? Right? Kind of.
It's going to get serious here. That's the one rule you can't break. You can't talk during the movie. Unless it's a very, 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 very perfect comment for the time. But it's almost not worth rolling the dice on that one.
Somebody tries it once and it worked. He laughed yeah. It worked.
I guess I could see that.
Yeah. And then he says, he just turns to his friends. It worked. Also, the knife goes through his neck. You should have quit while you were ahead. That would be a good the movie fan. That'd be a good horror slasher character.
Yeah, I'm just afraid I'm going to become this. It's he became what he wrote.
Yeah.
These are the things I'm starting to think about in life. I'm like, well, what am I going to do once the movie theater's gone? I guess I'll just have to convert the attic into its own movie theater, and then the flickering light upstairs will be real. I'm like, it's the only logical way is that I'll have to set the projector up upstairs and make my own movies. And I'll be like that guy who sits in the back, projectors rolling and stuff like that. He's got a stogie sitting there. You can't see anything but a blue glimmer on him.
Yeah,
almost feels like the
head, smoke. Yeah, just in front of the easy chair.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like Randolph Hearst, who's got his own movie theater in his house. You know what I mean?
Watching Commando on 35 millimeter.
Exactly. He's got that 35 millimeter cut of it. Oh, and he's got the uncut version of it on 35 millimeter. That adds an extra 30 seconds to it. Yeah. Yeah, one of those ones there. But yeah, no. Fright Night. Fright Night's a great movie. This is a perfect movie. If you could do an outdoor movie screening of this, this would be a fantastic one for that.
This is a perfect outdoor screening movie.
Yeah, I always think about that. You keep those movies in mind. What'd be a good one for that you could show to people that you're not going to show them. You're not going to show them one of those horror movies where it's just oh yeah, this one gets a little weird. I forgot to mention. Oh yeah, I forgot about that scene too. Because horror movies are almost they're almost like anime sometimes too, where you think you could show certain things to people, but then you forget there's this one character or there's this one awkward scene or there's some weird brutality that's one of those kind of ones, and then you kind of go, oh yeah, there's this and there's that. Yeah, you might not.
You might want to ease someone in before you show them I Saw the Devil.
Yeah, you get one of those ones.
You get kind of all right.
Later. Yeah,
we're going to go work our way up. All right, we're going to go Ernest Scared Stupid, and then we're going to think maybe, Coraline. Oh, then maybe, something what would be a good one? From kids movie to PG-13 horror would be a good one. Sixth Sense, maybe Sixth Sense from.
Yeah, that's
not a favorite, but
that's
it's not a favorite, but it's.
I feel like I've always wanted to give that one.
It's not for me.
I only watched it once when it came out, and I was like, "This is kind of lame." I feel like now I could probably watch and go, "Oh man, let me give it the old college try again, see what happens."
I'm trying to think of a horror film from that PG movie that a kid could watch, the PG-13, before onto the harder R stuff. Because I feel like Fright Night could be your first R-rated one. I'm trying to think what's one or two PG-13 ones you could lead in before that.
I know. I was trying to think of that too. I know there's a bunch of good ones that Poltergeist is another one you could always do.
Yeah, Poltergeist. Poltergeist is a good lead-in.
That gives you both Steven Spielberg presents / it's Tobe Hooper, and then when they go, whoa, that Tobe Hooper guy's a great director. Well, guess what? Texas Chainsaw Massacre next.
Yeah. Or Poltergeist, Twilight Zone.
Yeah, that's a good one for a PG one. Let's all play Kick the Can.
Yeah. Fright Night. Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah, you lead your way up. Then you get to your Dead Alives, and then you get to your
Evil Dead.
Yeah, Evil Deads, and
then I Saw the Devil.
Yeah, you have the ones like that, you know, and then you can even get ones like Pieces, which is a really cool one. But
I've never seen Pieces. But
that's a great one. There was one dude once who just had like he pretty much, it felt like he just had all the 70s, 80s like horror movies uploaded on YouTube. Of course, like any good thing, it didn't last forever. But I remember I watched that one there because that's the one that Eli Roth always talks highly about. And I was like, oh, that one.
Is it a torture one?
No, it's not torture. It's just murder.
Okay.
It's not torture. It's murder. like that's any better. But it's one of those ones where it's kind of in like that Giallo style, but then like cranked up a lot more than just like, you know, a kind of post Alfred Hitchcock ultra violence movie to being like, it had a lot more cooler like death scenes. Like that's the one I think that had like the guy shoves his chainsaw straight through like a bathroom stall to get the person on the other side and everything like that. And
damn.
I think it's either that or it's Mother's Day, because that's the other. I watched them both at the same time, and the Mother's Day had an amazing fucking opening. I think that was. I don't think that was Pieces, but I could be wrong. And I've almost kind of stirred these together or whatever. Like this kid, like literally, like brutally kills like his mom, like right in the very beginning of the film. And you're like, oh shit, we're definitely in for something here, you know, like that. And nobody thinks it's the kid because they're like, oh well, yeah, somebody just broke in. Why would this kid do this? And that's like the start of it. That might be Pieces though. Can't remember. Both movies good though. But that was even like Eli Roth says. He's like, yeah, they're not the movies. I made that mistake where I brought that movie out and showed to all my friends in high school. Yeah, and it was just way too intense for them. I just didn't realize everybody's tolerance wasn't there. But yeah, no, Fright Night, great kind of like party, you know, horror movie. So I'm like that. Great to watch by yourself too. I totally dug it. I look forward to whatever the next horror movies we decide to go with and like that, and continue this on because it's always one of those genres that like it's one of my favorite genres of movies, but it's like the kind I probably watch the least amount anymore. You know, well, actually I don't know, but every time I watch a horror movie, it's like it always reminds me like this is why you love this. They're so good. They're so much fun. They're so much cool, like special effects and everything like that. Especially when they're 70s and 80s, like the total golden age, in my opinion, of all that stuff. And Fright Night, it's cool to see these ones where like you kind of missed out on. You're like, cool. It's like having a brand new 80s movie that I can check out. You know what I mean? It like keeps it alive. That's what I kind of love about discovering those 70s and 80s movies is there's still always so many more to find that you just haven't seen yet that gives you that brand new feeling of watching an old movie, but for the first time.
That's kind of what Roadhouse was for me. So I guess that's you really twisted my arm into watching Roadhouse, and then I was like, so I guess this is like okay, here's Fright Night, you know. So yeah,
it's like Roadhouse. I would say they're both like practically perfect movies in a sense, just about like, you know, I mean, they're just good the whole way through. Great action in both, you know. But yeah, good stuff. We'll carry on with this kind of little bit of a marathon. Till then, go to oldmanorange.com where you'll find more of the podcast, comic books like Pizza Boys, all our animations, other videos, and all that fun stuff can be found at oldmanorange.com. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Rand Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.